Hyvää iltapäivää. That means good afternoon in Finnish. So, greetings from Joensuu, Finland. My name is Katinka Käyhkö, and I have the honor of welcoming you to this YUFE Academy event called Skills of Critical Thinking. Tervetuloa tähän YUFE Academy-tapahtumaan, jonka otsikkona on kriittisen ajattelun taidot. This event is organized and hosted by University of Eastern Finland and co-hosted with the Universities of Essex, Maastricht and Nicholas Copernicus in Turun. It means that we have people gathered not only here, but also in 4 other cities across Europe and online. YUFE, Young Universities for the Future of Europe, is an alliance of 10 young and research-intensive universities. It aims to shape a holistic and inclusive future for European students and learners and their society. YUFE on 10 eurooppalaisen yliopiston allianssi, joka yhdessä tuottaa sisältöjä monenlaisille oppijoille halki maailman. YUFE Academy is a selection of free and open for all lectures and workshops happening twice a year. And once a year we have this rather special YUFE Academy event, like today, combining a lecture and a workshop into a whole. But now I will give the floor to our today's lecturer, Professor of University Pedagogy, Heidi Hyytinen from the University of Eastern Finland, will share with us her expertise with the lecture called Critical Thinking, a set of skills needed in the age of misconceptions. Enjoy the lecture and the whole event. Ja jos tarvitsee, niin suomenkielisiä versioita luentodioista löytyy sieltä pöydiltä. Kiitos. Ole hyvä, Heidi.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today. I'm so excited to share some insights from my recent work. My name is Heidi Hyytinen, and I work as professor here at the University of Eastern Finland. My research focuses on teaching and learning in higher education with special focus on critical thinking skills. I have 15 years of experiences from research on critical thinking. It has been highlighted that at least over the last years, that critical thinking has become increasingly important in the current time. And based on my research, my main aim of this presentation is to enhance, to highlight and that we all can learn critical thinking. Okay. My presentation includes 4 main themes. First, I will talk about what is critical thinking and what isn't. Then I will share some ideas why critical thinking is important. And also I will talk about, we know based on our research that there are huge differences between individuals. So what actually explains these differences? And finally, I will move to a more practical view. So I will give some insights into enhancing critical thinking, how you can learn critical thinking or become better critical thinker. So let's start with the concept. Critical thinking is actually defined in many ways, but I think that one common to this definition is that it's somehow multifaceted construct, and it involves reflective thinking with an open mind. And actually, critical thinking is something that is help us to decide what to believe and what action to take. One way is, or another way is to conceptualize critical thinking as using different skills, like we have today title skills of critical thinking. And in the next slide here, I have a list here, the key skills that are included in critical thinking. So I will go through these skills. Sorry, notes here. And these all four skills are involved when we talk about critical thinking. So we need, when we think or when we act like critical thinkers, we need to have some kind of analytical thinking skills. We need to be able to identify and break down complex information into smaller parts to understand it better. Then we need evaluation skills, or assessing, an ability to assess information, claims, arguments, different knowledge sources. After that, we also at the same time need the skills to interpretation. We need to understand the meaning of the information as well. Then we need an ability to consider various perspectives. And also, at the same time, we need to be able to recognize biases in our own thinking, or when we read something or we learn something, there might be some kind of biases. And then we also need problem-solving skills. We need to be able to use this kind of knowledge that we have analyzed, interpret, and then use that knowledge to solve problems. And finally, we need to reach explanation, well-reasoned conclusions, stating results, presenting arguments. And researchers are using all these skills when we talk about critical thinking. However, actually, skills are not enough. And we also need to have some kind of knowledge that we analyze, interpret, consider different perspectives. We need all the time knowledge or information. And we need to have certain willingness or disposition to use these skills to analyze, to interpret, to solve problems. So that's the reason why this is so multifaceted construct. At the same time, critical thinker needs to have knowledge of what is reasonable to the context or the problem. and at the same time skills to evaluate and use that knowledge, and also share and have certain attitude and disposition to apply these skills. So, next I think it's important also to clear up some common misunderstanding about critical thinking. And I think that these kind of misconceptions that we might have, we as critical thinkers, can actually prevent us from developing our knowledge, our critical thinking abilities. I have divided this slide into two columns. On the left, you can see examples of what critical thinking is not. And on the right, we have more accurate description that reflects what critical thinking involves. So, for example, I have heard that many people think about that critical thinking is something that it is only for academics. It is for people who are working at the university. No, it is essential for all. Critical thinking is not. It isn't also being overly negative or black and white thinking. It is more about being open to different viewpoints, and it actually, like I said earlier, it involves skills to evaluate, to seek different perspectives, be open-minded. It is not memorizing facts. It's understanding, it is analyzing, it is applying information. And critical thinking also engage in dialogue and reflection. And moreover, it is something that it can be developed and improved through practice. So, why this multifaceted ability is so crucial for all of us? We need critical thinking skills in everyday life. When we watch news, read newspapers, it is essential that we are able to analyze the information, understand it. Critical thinkers or people who have strong critical thinking skills can, and also they show that disposition to use that skills at the same time, they can tackle everyday challenges and decision-making situation by evaluating the perspectives from different sides. Then we need critical thinking skills in working life. It is said, or it is highlighted, that critical thinking skills are essential working life skills at the same time. We know our previous studies that students who graduate from higher education and this who has developed good critical thinking skills, they are better prepared for the transition into working life. Their early career success is better if we compare to these students who don't have this kind of skills. So these skills help students to tackle also these challenges that are related to the transition into working life. And these skills are needed in education. Critical thinking skills are related study success and study progress. And actually, from very beginning of our early childhood learning path to higher education to lifelong learning, critical thinking skills are needed when we use and apply domain-specific knowledge and skills. Without interpretation skills or problem-solving skills, you are not able to use that knowledge that you are learning. Here you can see an example from my research. This quotation is from interview, third-year student, and the student highlighted in the interview that I will next read the quotation. I find it really difficult to manage and integrate overall concepts. When studying for exams, I struggle to identify the most important points and structure. The information is still quite scattered in my mind. I don't know how to grasp the big picture from the vast sea of details. It's very hard to evaluate articles and determine why one might be better than another. I can't tell what's true and what's not. This example highlights what kind of challenges students face if they have challenges in critical thinking skills. So that's the reason why critical thinking is related to learning processes and our learning. In this example, the teaching and learning environment didn't support the student development of critical thinking. The teaching practices in this specific case were teacher-focused. They concentrate more and less subject-specific knowledge and details. They didn't give any practices and didn't the student didn't have a chance to develop the skills together with when she was learning these domain-specific knowledge. Actually, we have found in our research that there is a significant variation in critical thinking abilities among higher education students here in Finland. Some students have very strong critical thinking skills when they start their studies, while the others face significant challenges. It has been found also that many students do not actually develop their skills during their higher education studies. So the gap between students remain during the studies. And one reason is that teaching learning environment that I mentioned before. We have found that the students have challenges in when they evaluate information Many students are very good at to find different perspectives, but when they need to combine or some kind of compare the perspectives, they have then challenges. Or when they need to combine different knowledge sources, or presenting explanation or write arguments, convincing arguments. Many students tend to support their own, sometimes quite one-sided view. So combining different kind of perspectives is something that challenge students. Why this kind of differences exist? We have found, and also my colleagues from several other countries, they have also found that one important factor is socioeconomic background. Previous educational experiences, educational background, and also socioeconomic background explain these differences among students. Then also there are also several individual factors that also are related or explain the differences between the students. Self-efficacy beliefs, attitudes, the effort the students are ready to put their studies, enhance their learning processes, approaches to learning, what kind of approaches students adopt, deep processes, or do they just try to memorize details, reflection. All these are connected to the level of critical thinking. Then we have also educational system and the teaching practices. Teachers can support students in developing their critical thinking skills. We have found, and also in the research, that active teaching methods, collaborative learning processes support learning of critical thinking. And when we use these skills, we learn these skills. If our teaching practices focus only on the content, not the skills, how to use that content, then our skills won't develop. And that's why this is something that I highlight when I teach teachers. This is also our task, to support students, to give them opportunities to enhance their critical thinking skills. Then some practical insights. So, how we can all enhance our critical thinking abilities. I think that this the most important thing is to read. Read, and read. Engage with different texts. Seek diverse perspectives to deepen your understanding in order to get wider viewpoints. Then also talk about what you read. discuss with others, share your ideas, compare ideas, seek diverse perspectives, consider alternative viewpoints and opinions, avoid taking information as granted, be open-minded. It is also important to practice active listening, to understand others' arguments and reasoning. It is very important that we are listening without interrupting or jumping immediately to conclusions. And also it is important to consider the context. What is the context where that information is presented? Why? What is related to that context? Also, try to break down problems, analyze complex issues by breaking them into parts and examine each component and combine and relate these different perspectives. And finally, be open to recognize biases. Identify and reflect your own preconceptions, attitudes, and thoughts. And be ready to understand that this kind of reflection help you to understand the misinterpretations that might avoid you to see the bigger picture that is related to that situation. Then to conclude my short presentation or lecture today, critical thinking is making decision what to believe and how to act and what kind of actions to take. It's a process of evaluation and synthesizing information to solve problems, to reach conclusions, and so on. As I said earlier, we know that there are huge variation between the individuals, and there are several factors that explains these differences. It was the socio-economic background, students itself, and the learning environment. However, we can learn, we can enhance these skills. And here, practice makes perfect. So, like any skill, critical thinking can be improved through practice and application. An open mind disposition to use these skills. So, reflect, engage in order to enhance the critical thinking skills. Reflect your own conceptions and attitudes. And also engage in diverse reading and discussion, and be open to learn from each other. Thank you.